My wife betrayed me, and my stepdaughter insisted it was meaningless. So I filed for divorce, kept the house, and left them with nothing but regret. Hello, Reddit. Opie here. Looking back, I can see the moment it all started to fall apart. It wasn't the night I walked in and caught Julia with another man. It started months earlier, when she began to pull away. Julia and I had been married for 12 years. When we met, she was a single mother raising her daughter, Hannah, who was 10 at the time. Hannah's biological father had vanished years earlier, and Julia painted me as the man who saved them both. And in a way, I did. I gave them security, a home, and a future. I poured myself into making sure they never felt abandoned again. I paid for Hannah's private school, her activities, even set aside a college fund. I never once treated her as not mine. She called me Dad by her own choice, and that meant the world to me. But once Hannah hit her early 20s, Julia was different. She became secretive, glued to her phone, snapping at me over the smallest things. "Why are you always asking where I'm going?" she would snap. "I'm not a child. I don't need your permission." I wasn't asking to control her. I was asking because I cared, but she twisted it until I felt like I was suffocating her. The night it all came crashing down wasn't planned. I was supposed to be working late, but a meeting was canceled. When I pulled into the driveway, there was an unfamiliar car outside. Something in me already knew. I slipped inside quietly. The house smelled of wine and perfume. Laughter echoed from the living room. Julia's laugh, one I hadn't heard directed at me in months. And there he was, a stranger, lounging comfortably on my couch, arm around my wife. Julia's blouse was unbuttoned, her lipstick smeared. The second they saw me, the room went silent. He stumbled out, mumbling excuses. But Julia didn't chase him. She just sat there, glaring at me with defiance instead of shame. I remember asking, voice shaking, "How long?" Her reply, "It doesn't matter." Later that night, when Hannah came home, I told her what had happened. I expected her to be shocked, maybe furious at her mother. Instead, she looked at me coldly and said, "It doesn't mean anything. Don't throw away our family over one mistake." One mistake. That's what 12 years of loyalty, sacrifice, and devotion were reduced to. That was the real knife in my back. Not just Julia's betrayal, but Hannah dismissing my pain as if it were irrelevant. The divorce. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Julia never believed I'd go through with it. She tried everything: anger, denial, seduction. She even tried blaming me. "You work too much. You're always tired. What did you expect me to do?" But I wasn't the one who broke our vows, and I refused to be cast as a villain. The divorce was brutal. Julia demanded half the house, half my savings and spousal support. But the house had been mine before we married, and I had kept most of my finances separate. I presented proof of her affair. Texts, photos, even footage from security cameras she never knew about. The judge wasn't sympathetic to her sob story. In the end, she got nothing. No house, no savings, no support. She left with exactly what she brought in, herself and Hannah. Hannah stopped speaking to me. She sent one final text. "You ruined everything. I hope you're happy." But the truth was, Julia had ruined everything. Hannah chose her side. Aftermath. I tried to rebuild. I redecorated the house, erased every trace of Julia, and focused on finding myself again. Eventually, the fallout hit them. Julia's affair partner dumped her. She'd only ever been a fling. Hannah discovered her college fund was gone. I had dissolved it during the divorce. I couldn't keep funding someone who had looked me in the eye and told me my pain didn't matter. She was forced into loans, working long hours just to stay in school. They ended up moving in with Julia's parents. Julia, once proud and materialistic, was forced into a cramped apartment, living off her elderly parents. Hannah, once spoiled and ambitious, now had to grind her way through school without a safety net. Nearly a year later, Hannah showed up at my door. She looked worn down. She didn't even ask to come in. "I need money," she said. "Mom can't help, and I'm drowning in debt. You're the only one who can." I looked at her, searching for the girl who once called me Dad, but all I saw was someone who turned her back on me, when I needed her most. I gave you everything for 12 years, I said quietly. And when I needed you, you chose her. That was your choice. Now live with it. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't budge. She walked away without another word. That was the last time I saw her. Life after them. Now, I live alone in the house I built, surrounded by peace instead of betrayal. Julia and Hannah are just ghosts of my past. From what I hear, Julia spends her days bitter and broke, and Hannah is still struggling to stay afloat. Do I feel guilty? Not at all. I gave them everything, and they treated my love like it was disposable. They assumed I forgive and keep providing no matter what. They underestimated me. In the end, I walked away with dignity, and they were left with regret. The lies. But the story didn't end there. Julia wasn't done. She began spreading her own version of events to mutual friends and family. She painted me as a villain, a cold, workaholic husband who ignored her needs, driving her into another man's arms. She claimed I abandoned Hannah. 2, refusing to fund her education out of spite. Some people believed her. A few even called me cruel. But those who knew me, who watched me raise Hannah as my own, knew the truth. Julia was rewriting history to dodge her shame. What hurt worse was hearing that Hannah repeated those lies. The girl I tucked in at night, taught to drive, raised as my own, telling people I never loved her. It felt like she was erasing 12 years of her own life. The confrontations. 6 months after the divorce, Julia showed up at my door unannounced. She looked worn down, dressed cheaply, eyes tired. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me. "You've made your point," she began. "You embarrassed me in court, took everything. But don't you think you've punished Hannah enough? She didn't do anything wrong. She's struggling because of you." I almost laughed. Hannah hadn't done anything wrong. She looked me in the eye and told me Julia's betrayal meant nothing. She chose her side. "I'm not funding people who spit on me when I'm down." I told her, "You both made your choice." Her face hardened. "One day, you'll regret this. You'll grow old and alone, and she'll never forgive you." I showed her the door. Better alone than betrayed. 2 years later, Hannah resurfaced. She asked me to meet her at a cafe. She looked older, weighed down by life. "I want to apologize," she said. "I was young. I didn't understand. I shouldn't have dismissed what Mom did. I should have treated you like you didn't matter." For a second, I saw the little girl I raised. My heart almost softened. Almost. Then I remembered the countless nights I lay awake, wondering how the people I loved most would betray me. "What do you want, Hannah?" I asked. She hesitated, then admitted, "I'm behind on tuition again. Maybe you could help." And there it was, the real reason. Not reconciliation, not guilt, just money. I pushed back my chair and stood. "You want forgiveness? Live without it. You want money? Ask your mother. I gave you my love once, and you threw it away. Don't ask me for anything else." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought you were better than this." "No, Hannah," I said, "I thought you were." And I walked away. The fallout. In time, word of Julia's downfall trickled back. The man she destroyed our marriage for married someone else. Julia had burned every bridge and ruined her reputation. She bounced from job to job, never regaining the life she once had with me. Hannah dropped out of college under the weight of her debt and moved back in with Julia. Their relationship turned bitter. Neighbors whispered about their fights. Julia blaming Hannah for her failures. Hannah blaming Julia for destroying her only stable home. The family that once dismissed my pain now sat in ruins, tearing each other apart. Meanwhile, I found peace. I traveled, reconnected with friends, and rebuilt my life on my own terms. And every time I remembered Hannah saying, "It doesn't mean anything," I smiled, because for Julia and Hannah, it ended up meaning everything. They lost it all. I kept my dignity, and that was the sweetest revenge.